All the Miami Hurricanes had to do was not blow a 21-point lead.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The ACC Championship game is set. We got college football playoff spots hanging in the balance. We got players declaring for the transfer portal already. It doesn't open for another week. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you just win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On this loaded episode of Locked On ACC, we'll talk about rivalry game brawls and whether or not the NCAA should, make more rules. Rules were meant to be broken, though, of course, we all know. We'll talk about the ACC Championship matchup, which is now set between SMU, who's had their spot locked up for a couple weeks, and they win out across their ACC schedule, and Clemson. Clemson sneaks in Kenton Gibbs because Miami choked. And I say that despite the fact I obviously love the Miami Hurricanes. I cover them on Locked On Canes. You, of course, cover the NC State Wolfpack on Locked On Wolfpack. And Miami's offense started out tremendously well, as they usually do, KG. They actually built up a 21-0 lead. And then Miami's defense started to happen. And I'm not taking anything away from Syracuse.
Absolutely.
Kyle McCord did what he has done all season long. He ends up carving Miami like the Thanksgiving turkey for 380 yards, exposing every soft spot. There's a lot of them in Miami's defensive secondary. Jackson Meeks, Trevor Pena especially really got off in that game. Gadsden had a couple big catches, but he didn't have to do as much as Meeks and Pena did throughout that game. And, Miami made too many mistakes. Obviously, the offense played well enough to win the game, scoring 38 points. But the scoop and score that Xavier Restrepo fumbled and gave up was another crippling play. And Kenton, what does it say about Miami that even when they were up 21-0, I didn't have a whole lot of faith that they were going to cruise to victory?
You know what the biggest comeback in all of the Power Four this year was?
Miami on the other end of it, right?
Miami coming back against Cal. Now, this is the second or third biggest comeback, I believe, and it's done against them. The thing is, the same things that we saw rearing their ugly head against Cal early, we saw in this game as well. It was just late. It was just flipped. And here's the thing, right? When I look at this game and I say, hey, of course, was the offense perfect? No. I'm not going to argue that the offense was perfect by any means. However, when your team scores 38, you ought to be able to win that football game. But this has put Miami in a position and put the ACC in a position where we went from a position of strength, talking about 3 teams potentially getting in, to now we're looking at, well, damn, is it possible for us to get left out altogether? Because things have happened in a way that we could not have foreseen, with some of these teams just absolutely wetting the bed, including Miami. And again, take nothing away from Syracuse, because they showed up and they stuck to their guns, right? This is not a team that runs the ball at a high clip. They ran it this game 26 times on design runs. Think about that for a second. 26 times on designed runs for a team that doesn't run it often. What does that say? They came in with a game plan. Even if it doesn't work, we're going to stick to it. Even if everything doesn't go perfect, we're going to stick to it with LeQuint, which ultimately helped them melt this game away down the stretch. It's so unfortunate to see Miami's season not end like this, because they still have another game. And I'm sure that Mario Cristobal, after seeing what happened with Florida State when you pack it in and give it up, I'm sure that team's not going to do the same thing going into their bowl game.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they still have a shot to get into the playoff. In fact, they still have still have an outside chance.
Here's the thing. I think they should have an inside chance. Don't get me wrong. Yes, they have 2 losses. Those 2 losses, okay, one of which is to an unranked Georgia Tech team. Fine. Didn't that Georgia Tech team just take Georgia to 8 overtimes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, they got hosed, Georgia Tech, by the officials
Yes.
repeatedly. And
Yes.
you know what really bothers me? Because so many times, especially when I'm watching Miami games, because, it's been a running joke this year. Miami's been like the beneficiary of a lot of close calls, right? A lot of close official calls go in Miami's favor. And every broadcast Miami is on ESPN and their family of networks always has the rules analyst. Let's go to the rules analyst. Yeah, guys, that was a terrible no call. There was no rules analyst on the Georgia Tech Georgia broadcast. I mean, they should have gone to a rule like 100 times in that game. Where was the rules analyst?
Well, you know how that goes. Donno, again, it just means more down there. So they just don't need anybody to interpret the rules because the SEC makes the rules. But in all seriousness, I look at this moment and I say to myself, Syracuse did everything they had to do, and Miami continued to be who they were all season. Like you said, the lack of adjustments defensively has been baffling for quite some time. If you see, hey, our guys are getting beat a lot in man coverage. Well, hey, I know you like your defensive backs a lot. I get it. I know you like your front four a lot. I know that those guys get home at a high clip. But the reality is, if it's not working, you have to make adjustments. I get it. Oh, our DBs are struggling. I don't want to blitz because I don't want to take guys out of cover. I don't care. Blitz all night. If base ain't working, let's try something different, which Miami did not do, and it ultimately ended up costing them this game. So, it's tough in a moment like this to kind of not take away anything from Syracuse. But again, Syracuse showed up, and Kyle McCord did not have those signature Kyle McCord moments. And even when he did, Miami did not take advantage. Even when he did put the ball in dangerous situations, Miami didn't take advantage, and he didn't do it that often. That's why you have to be ready. You have to be prepared, because even a quarterback that's willing to throw it into the fire, he ain't going to do it 10 times a game. It's going to be those 2-3 passes where it's like, hey, you got to go make a play. And Miami's defensive backs did not make plays in the moment of truth.
So, Miami, they choked away controlling their own destiny is what they choked away. Had they beaten Syracuse, they're in the ACC Championship game. So, all right, so now the situation in the ACC title game, and we'll break down the matchup a little bit later on. It's SMU taking on Clemson in Charlotte this Saturday. Let's talk about the college football playoff scenario, because I strongly feel that win or lose, SMU absolutely should be in the college football playoff. I'm a little bit scared that I've seen a couple of projections out there. These are just by media members, but I've seen like Bud Elliott, I think it was, from Cover 3, put out a scenario where they don't get in, or only one ACC team gets in. SMU should be in no matter what. Even if they lose to Clemson, it's just their second overall loss this year, playing in a conference championship game. They shouldn't be over penalized for that. Now, I believe if SMU beats Clemson, Clemson's probably out with 4 losses, right? I mean, Unfortunately, they did themselves no favors by not beating South Carolina at home. That really puts them in a must-win situation. But if Clemson wins, they're in the playoff, probably as maybe a 4 seed. They still get the first round bye. I believe Clemson is in if they win the conference championship. I believe SMU is in either way. Now, if SMU beats Clemson and knocks them down to 4 losses, that's where Miami would have a chance. But then you would have to weigh not only the resume, but also the biases, right? SEC versus ACC. It may come down, Kenton, to a 2-loss Miami or a 3-loss Alabama. Who gets in?
Stop it, Donno. Stop it. Oklahoma holding you to 3 points is not enough?
I agree with you, but some people don't think it is. Now, ESPN projects Miami to get in over Alabama. A lot of other folks aren't. The committee's going to have to decide.
If being held to 3 points by Oklahoma ain't enough, is losing to a 6-win Vanderbilt enough? What's enough to say, hey, man, we get it. We've seen this team have some really high highs. Their lows cannot be ignored. Miami's lows this season were almost losses. It was all, this ain't a good team, and they almost lost. Alabama's lows this season, losing to not good teams. That's just what it is. I'm going to tell everybody this, and I mean this for the most genuine standpoint. that I've ever said anything in my life. As much as my grandmother loves her Tide, and I know I'll be receiving a call about how can I talk bad about her Tide, I genuinely want to know in what world a loss to Georgia Tech and a loss to Syracuse.
And by the way, both on the road by a combined 9 points. Those two.
But not only that, one of those teams is a 9-win team, correct?
Yeah.
Quick question, Donno. Is Vanderbilt 8-9-win team?
No.
Well, they at least won all their out of conference games, right, against those group of 5 schools, right? Because well, Oklahoma, I know they've got to be a 9-win team. You know, they've got to be 6. Oh, so you're telling me 2 6-win teams, one of whom lost to a group of 5 school, those losses are not disqualifying because of a big win. Again, at some point in time, the whole resume has to matter. Yes, the toughness of your schedule and all that, that's great. But if the toughness of your schedule dictates that you see 3 to 4 to 5 losses, what are we doing here? What are we really talking about here? What does it matter if you play some of the toughest teams in America if they kick your skull in? What does it matter? Yeah, you beat Georgia, but then you went and got blown out the doors, blown off you in Norman, Oklahoma in the year of our Lord Savior 2024. Lincoln Riley ain't walking through that door, unfortunately for them. Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, none of those guys walked through that door. Sedarius Lambchops did not walk through that door. Gerald McCoy didn't come through that door. Marcus Dupree did not walk through that door for Oklahoma.
Baker Mayfield,
Adrian Peterson, you name it. None of those guys were walking through that door. That is an Oklahoma team that's been banged up all season, held these guys to 3 points, and we're sitting here discussing, well, who gets in? A 2-loss Miami because they don't have as many good wins, or a 3-loss Bama because they have really good wins, but the losses don't really count. We're just going to ignore those losses because those are just, the Tennessee loss, it's a good loss. It's a bye week. The other 2 losses somehow became good losses overnight. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we agree. Even Dabo Swinney said Miami should get into the college football playoffs. So I think there seems to be an agreement among the ACC, and Dabo's team is going to be playing for the ACC Championship. Let's talk SMU versus Clemson when we come back. I want to get Kenton's take because he played at NC State. He played in the rivalry. His opinion on planting the flag, which has been a controversial topic over these last couple days because all these rivalry games, 4 of them end in brawls because of people planting that flag. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. We're only getting started with FanDuel. I know college football season is almost over, but is it? I mean, we got CFP coming up, conference championship games, bowl season. There's so much still to wager on. The NFL still has a long, long way to go. Guys, it's not too late to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure for your next listen, you check out the other shows that we host. Kenton, Gibbs, and Grayson Boone do an awesome job on Locked On Wolfpack. I'm sure you guys are still talking about that nice rivalry win that you got. You're talking CJ Bailey, although you're also talking about Kevin Concepcion leaving in the portal. I'm so sorry about that. On Locked On Canes, yeah, we're talking about Miami unfortunately losing some recruits. They just lost five-star safety Hilton Drake Stubbs to Florida, of all places. That's painful. But we got National Signing Day coming up. Is Miami going to sneak into that college football playoff? All that good stuff. We're talking about it on Locked On Canes. So, Kenton, I guess strong finish to the regular season for SMU. They get a nice win over Cal. Fernando Mendoza didn't play, but it's still they took care of business. They dominated. All right. Clemson, not so much against South Carolina. They had the chance to send the game to overtime. They were playing for the win. Tipped ball, interception from Cade Klubnik. South Carolina got to run out the clock and celebrate. Because I noticed, Kenton, I checked the hypothetical odds before Saturday's games, and Clemson before Saturday would have been considered about a 2 or 3 point favorite against SMU. But now that the seasons have finished, regular seasons for both of those teams, SMU is actually favored in the ACC Championship game by 2.5 points. And honestly, I know Clemson's got the history, and under Dabo Swinney, they built up a certain benefit of the doubt, but there's no question in my mind, SMU's been a better team this year. SMU is super dangerous, especially on offense. I think the Mustangs are going to win.
SMU has been the more complete team all year.
Yeah.
And when people say more complete team, what do you mean by that? They have found ways to win when it was ugly. They have found ways to win when they have trailed and all that good stuff. They have just found a way time and time and time again, which is something that, with all due respect, we cannot say about their counterparts in Clemson. We just can't. For example, did you know one very interesting fact about Clemson this year? How many games have they won while trailing at half? Take a wild guess, Donno.
0.
1.
Oh.
They won one game all year while trailing at half, and that game was beating a Chiron drone and Byshaw Tutenless Virginia Tech. Not Chiron Jones and Byshaw Tuten. Byshaw Tuten was out in that game. But either way you cut it or slice it, that was a situation where you look at this game and you say to yourself, hey, that seems to be the exception, not the rule, because every other time where they've trailed at half, that game you can go ahead and chalk it up as a loss. SMU, however, they find ways. They battle back. They make it happen. And you can make the argument, well, SMU hasn't played as good of a schedule. Sure, but SMU has beaten common opponents. SMU has shown up in moments where Clemson fell short, in moments where Clemson didn't make it happen, like against the Louisville. SMU simply showed up, and I'm not going to penalize them for that. I'm not going to say, oh, they're bad for that, or that's a problem for them. They did what they were supposed to do. So SMU as a team has been more complete all season because, like I said, they have shown up time in, time out, and they've always found a way, whether they're trailing, whether or not it's mostly going to be Smith on the ground, whether or not it's going to be a big day for Jennings. However it happens, they have found a way. The most interesting thing about this game is this. I don't think that SMU has played a single team as talented as Clemson all year. However, I don't think that Clemson has played a team that is as complete as SMU all year. So it's a very interesting dynamic that we're going to see here, because as much as people thought that Georgia was going to run away with a national championship at the beginning of the season, that was before we knew that if you make Carson Beck go to his second read, he's going to be shaking, crying, and throwing up like Jamie Foxx and Ray when he was going through withdrawals in that hospital. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying to myself, this is going to be a very interesting matchup in Charlotte coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And it's, and hopefully this game gets the TV ratings it deserves, because I think it's going to be a good one. I know Saturday you're going to have a lot of different options around college football. The ACC, they usually schedule in that is it the 7 p.m. window, I think, this week? Let me double check that. 8 p.m.
So.
8 p.m.
It's 8 p.m. on the 7th. Yes, sir.
It's going to be going up head-to-head against the Big Ten championship game. Oregon, who are 3.5-point favorites against Penn State. That's going to be an interesting one. Like I logic would say Oregon could blow them out, but at the same time, Oregon has played with their food a lot this year. I mean, that was way too close against Wisconsin. They didn't beat Idaho. That was a long time ago, obviously, in Boise State. But I don't know. That's going to be – those two games are going to be going head-to-head. The other conference championship games on Saturday. The SEC championship game is going to be afternoon, so that'll be over by the time ACC starts. Texas against Georgia at 4 p.m. and Iowa State against Arizona State at noon. So that's going to be a fun day of college football coming up. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Penn State's about to get their doors blown off. That's one thing I know for sure.
Yeah.
But with that being said, this is going to be a very interesting slate of games. And I'll tell you, this probably will be the most entertaining. I see a little bit of a barn burner coming here, and I see SMU prevailing because while, again, they have not seen the defensive line as talented, they have not seen a complete team as talented, Rhett Lashley is an offensive mastermind that does not get the credit he deserves. I really believe that he is one of the great offensive minds in the game right now, and I think he's going to give Clemson fits.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, I want to talk about all these brawls, and I kind of enjoy watching the hatred in these rivalry games. But Virginia Tech, NC State, North Carolina, Florida State, Michigan, Ohio State, they all had altercations after the game, all related to planting the flag. I want to get Kenton's take as somebody who's played in one of those big rivalries before. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Find out why GameTime, it's the only ticket app that Kenton and I use, because we're getting the best deals right up to the start of the event. I mean, if you're on the fence about going to the ACC Championship game, you can find tickets, I think, in the low 50s right now. Those prices are just going to keep going down before this Saturday in Charlotte. So you want to check out GameTime. And they've got a new feature on the GameTime app called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, because GameTime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Some other features I love: all-in pricing. They'll show you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? It's game time. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts, free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So all over the country, Kenton, rivalry week, we had altercations, brawls in Columbus, Ohio, in Chapel Hill, in Tallahassee, in Charlottesville, and it's all related to the victor planting their flag after rivalry wins. And I've started to see the dialogue out there turn into, does the NCAA need to do something about this? Does the NCAA need to create rules against this? And I say, okay, for 100 years, this has been a tradition. First of all, if you don't want your flag planted on your home field, win the damn football game. Football game. And if you don't like it, protect your team and your integrity after the game. I mean, Mike Norvell was getting a little scrappy. I thought that was kind of cool from Money Mike, although his team lost and they're terrible. Then I also see Ryan Day was acting like nothing was happening when Michigan was planting the flag in Columbus. So not every coach takes it to heart, I guess, as much.
Let me tell you something. First thing first, for the Dirty Foot Club and all y'all recruits in the future, take some boxing lessons. This is the second time or third time in a row that not only did you get beat up on the field, but you got beat up after the game by NC State. Learn how to squabble. If you're going to do this, know how to do it. Stop getting whooped on in both regards and find a way to win something. Now, moving forward from there, Donno, I absolutely agree with you. I think it is one of the most pathetic displays possible to display all this fight afterwards. And so many people say, well, just because you win a game doesn't mean that you get a level of disrespect. Let me tell you a fun story about me. First of all, shout out to Coach Marvin Rushing and Cass Tech on winning their 4th state championship. We love to see that. Now, with that being said, we don't hate anybody like we hate and loathe those Martin Luther King Crusaders. We hate them. They're disgusting. The boys from East Lafayette, those bums, we don't like them. We don't like nothing about them. Now, here's a very interesting thing about that. We lost to them, I want to say it was my senior year. While we walked off that field, people called us everything but children of God. People did all types of disrespectful stuff, throwing stuff at all types of stuff. all types of, because that was their Super Bowl. And they got us. They got us. We didn't take it serious enough, and they did. They punched us in the face. They won the football game. I accept that. And you know what else we accepted? All of the criticism, all of the extras, all of their waving around their flag after the game. Because guess what? We lost the game. You want to know how many games Cal State lost at home while I was there? None. You know why? Because we didn't want nobody planting their damn flag. So we didn't give nobody the right to plant their flag. Whatever teams do after they beat you, again, as long as it's not a personal one-to-one disrespect thing, like spitting in the face or, taking off their belt and putting it to you behind or something like that in a very literal sense, let it go. Protect your field during the 60 minutes. After that 60 minutes, if Florida State wants to take sod for their little, their sod cemetery thing or whatever.
Right, the sod cemetery. Yeah.
If Florida wants to give retaliation for that. When I was at NC State, my freshman year, Eric Ebron and company whooped the wheels off us. And so they stomped, they danced, they spit all over our blockheads. But we knew we're coming back. This ain't the last time you're going to see us. We're going to see y'all again. We'll catch you on the rebound, homie. And guess what happened? Belt to behind. And guess what happened after that? Those boys, soft as they are, love to fight. They're that kid that loves to fight even though he gets beat up every time. And we put them in the dirt. We put them down just like we always do. So with that in mind, if you don't like flag planting, protect your field during the game. When Texas planted their flag at Michigan, what happened? Nothing. You know why? Because Michigan said, hey, they won. They got the right to do what they want to do. Class act stuff right there.
Right.
If a team wins and they want to plant their flag, whatever, let them. Because guess what? They earned it. Now, when it's time for you to earn it back, let them know. Put 2 flags on it. Put 3 flags on it. Do your dance on it. I don't care. But do it between the lines and earn the right to do the extra. I'm sure the NCAA will come up with something for this because now flag planting has become the big thing. Even though most of these rivalries, you see these fights happen all the time. Michigan, Ohio State is called the game for a reason. You don't need a cute name for that. It's like how, somebody from Fayetteville said, hey, my city is Fayetteville. I said, baby, I'm from Detroit. We don't have to give us a cute nickname for you to know who we are and how it gets up there. We don't need to do that. It's the same thing for the game. Those are 2 teams that hate each other. That's how it goes. The Commonwealth thing between Virginia and Virginia Tech, they hate each other. That's how it goes. We don't like you. You don't like a UNC, NC State. I can tell you firsthand the level of hatred between these 2 teams. And, people can call it a mid-off all day, and I'm fine with that because neither one of us have won a national championship in forever and a day. With that being said, trust me, the hate is there. The hate in your heart for the opposition is there. So with that being said, again, win the game or walk your behind off the field. And no, I'm not just saying that because congratulations, class of 2025 for UNC. You don't know a world where your boys won that game. I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm saying it again to protect the Dirty Foot Club players because, Donno, if you watch the film on that brawl, all you saw was blue jerseys hitting the floor. Time and time again.
I watched it today. Yeah.
And listen, learn how to squabble. Protect yourself. Protect yourself, or at least know when to not squabble. Know when it's the moment. We all good Christians. We pray a lot, man. I don't want no smoke here. You won the game. But again, if a team wins, let them plant the flag. Let them do it. Now, if it comes to spitting, if it comes to doing something extra, any interpersonal one-to-one thing, absolutely. We don't let that slide. That's too far. Yeah. That's a bridge too far. But in terms of, you talking how you want to talk, saying what you want to say, it's a rivalry. I don't like you. You don't like me. And too many of the teams that do all this fighting is because they have other rivals that they're buddy-buddy with, that it's not really a rivalry, and that's the problem. Yeah. Bring back that hatred in rivalries. Bring back that I can't stand anything about you. And that's all I got to say.
Well said. Well said, my friend. And listen, it's part of the game. When Texas beats Oklahoma, they're planting the flag. When Oklahoma's beating Texas, they're doing that, and they're putting the horns down. When somebody beats Miami, you know how tired I am of seeing the U's down, but you know what? Yeah. I don't complain because if we want to stop them turning the U's upside down, you win on the field. People mocking the Cam Ward celebration when they make plays against Miami. stop them on the field, and they're not going to mock our celebrations. That's just how it works.
Exactly. How many Gators' throats have been slit this year? That's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's how the game goes. Either you make it happen on the field or you shut up about it. Or, and I'm going to say this, I know a lot of people going to disagree with me on this. I think that we're making much ado about nothing about the fighting, to be honest. We let hockey players, hey, go at it, handle your business. We're going to give you 3, 4, 5 minutes to handle it and then go about your way. Whenever football players do it for some reason, it's seen as the worst thing in the world.
Stop the season.
This senseless violence. This is a massacre on the field. Oh, stop it. It's young men who are excited about the game, who hate each other, having a little tizzy, having a little scuffle. It's okay. Nobody's died from any of these. Has anybody died from a hockey fight? So why don't we treat it the same way? Hey, listen, you're suspended for a half for fighting. And that's that. Leave it at that.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna throw some fisticuffs with you. I'll sit in the penalty box for 5 minutes, and then we'll do it again. I don't know.
Hey, listen. I don't care where you're from or how you get down. All I know is everybody's fought before. Everybody's been in the fight before. I tell people all the time, 90% of problems can be solved with words. We can discuss this. We can work it out. Then there's that 10%. There's that 10% where it's like, hey, you said, what about my kid? Oh, you said what to my wife? Hey, buddy, come on back. Let's go ahead and solve this right here, right now. And it won't be solved with words. Come outside. I'm not going to touch you. By the way, if anybody tells you that, do not go outside unless you're very much so ready to be touched. So, it's just that situation where, again, I don't think it's as big of a deal as other people. You know, I grew up with the malice and the palace and all that and how people reacted to that situation, which was a different thing because it was fans getting involved in the fight. Because between these two teams, hey, go ahead, handle it. Y'all don't like each other, go ahead, handle it. Have your little 5 minutes. We're going to separate you. You're going to go back to your locker rooms. All's well that ends well.
I love it. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in as always. If you're enjoying Locked On ACC, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, like and subscribe. Make sure to check out Kenton at Locked On Wolfpack. Check me out at Locked On Canes. And we will talk to you guys again tomorrow. We'll have, I'm sure, a spirited episode of the squad later this week. I hate the fact that Jackson Holzer has wins over both of us this year, Kenton.
It's disgusting.
We let Jackson beat us both. We did. And you know what? I'll give you guys an insight. I was texting Jackson during the Miami-Syracuse game, and with about 2 minutes left, I texted him an early congratulations because I was trying to pull off some voodoo. Like I was trying to pull off, if I congratulate him before the game is actually over, maybe Miami will come back. I tried. It didn't work, but I tried.
Well, you know, the hoodoo, the voodoo, whatever it is, sometimes it just ain't working in your favor, brother.
No, sir. Well, we'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We're part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.